For years, that's how long. I've been stationed at the Kaktovik Search and Rescue Outpost on Alaska's North Slope. Out here, you learn to live with the cold, the dark, and the vast emptiness of the tundra. But mostly, you learn to live with the silence. Not quiet, just the kind of silence where only the things that should be out there are out there. I was alone in the communications room tonight. On the outside, snow swallowed everything including land, sea, sky. I was working through a report when the heater shut off, and the whole room fell still. Then a single, sharp click cut through all 3 auxiliary radio channels at the same moment. Not interference, not a transmission. It sounded like a switch snapping shut or a book being slammed closed. The rookies call it the 7-click. The veterans, like our station chief, Malit, call it the land balancing the books. I always told myself it was electrical noise, but last night changed that. Because after the click, I heard something new, a faint, high-pitched whine, like a gear turning, followed by a soft, metallic thud. It didn't feel natural. It felt like a countdown. Not so long, the satellite phone rang at 2:49. A distress beacon from a remote weather station 60 miles north. The climatologist there, which is Dr. Lena Hansen, hadn't checked in for 6 hours. And can whiteout conditions. Equipment failure. Possibly stranded. I grabbed my parka, ready to go, when Malit appeared in the doorway. Her face was carved by 20 Arctic winters. You'll be going during the window, she said. The window, 3 o'clock to 3:15 a.m., the time when things go wrong. I know, I said, but if she's alive, she doesn't have long. Malit stepped closer and pulled something from her pocket. A smooth, dark stone, like polished obsidian. She pressed it into my hand. It was freezing cold. There are rules we don't tell the newcomers, she said. You already know not to look at the shadows. You know not to answer a voice that isn't yours, she said. Here's the 3rd rule. If you recover something the land has already claimed, something that should be dead, but you find alive, you get 5 shifts to repay the borrowed time. How? I asked, because I can't understand anything she was saying. The silent keepers will come for the life they were meant to take. When they see it's gone, they'll check the ledger, and they'll find your name, she said again. I didn't argue. I just left because all what she is saying seemed strange to me. The snow chewed at the snowmobile, and the cold felt like weight. I found Dr. Hansen at 3:05 a.m., curled inside a makeshift shelter of torn plastic and metal poles. She wasn't moving. I ripped the shelter open. She was alive, but barely. She had frozen lips, weak pulse. In those temperatures, she should have been dead hours ago. But a miracle, or something I didn't want to think about, kept her alive. As I wrapped her in a thermal blanket, I heard a deep, low chime. Not metallic, more like a cello string vibrating across the tundra. It came from somewhere behind the shelter. I saw nothing in the dark, but I felt something watching, cataloging, filing, like standing in a silent, ancient library. I didn't look again. I loaded her into the sled and sped back. We crossed the gate at 3:14 a.m. She survived. She was walking by morning, and everyone called me a hero. I went to file my report. My desk was clean except for the stone. The same one Malit had given me. Only now, it was warm. Malit stood by the coffee machine. They accepted the transfer, she said. You acknowledged the rules when you took the marker. But I saved her, I said. The case is closed. You closed her case, she corrected. You borrowed the life that was already in their ledger. And the ledger doesn't forgive. It only trades. She nodded toward the stone. You have 4 shifts left. On your next mission, you will have to choose. Either bring them back alive and pass on the debt, or leave the stone behind. If you leave it, the keepers take it and they close the ledger on you. The horror hit hard. I'd have to condemn someone innocent life now to save myself, just because I save a life that was already taken. The stone suddenly felt heavier than the whole Arctic. That night, I was back on comms. The shift crawled by. The dead stone sat in my pocket like a heartbeat. At 3:07 a.m., the click came again. It was cold and final. But this time, the follow-up sound wasn't a thud. It was a slow, dry scraping, like a long fingernail dragging down a page. I leaned closer to the speakers to hear my next mission so I could save my life. But it wasn't just scraping. What I heard next was my name. I became scared because this means I have to lose my life to save my life. But how? How is that possible?